Thanks for tuning in. You join us at Tony Wright's Little Buy Them layout, and I've dropped off two little presents for him to review for our November 2023 issue of BRM, the new P2s.
And what locomotives they are. In a way, one of the most controversial classes of all time. This one here is the new build Prince of Wales, but it's very similar in appearance to the original 1934 Cock of the North. This one here is the later build without the Caprotti valve gear and the Bugatti nose. Eventually the original one was rebuilt and the second one was rebuilt to look like this. Now when I say controversial, they were designed for the Edinburgh-Aberdeen road, and on that road they were unsurpassed. No other locomotive could take what these took, up to 500-600 tons unaided, but they had flaws, one of which was that they broke their crank axles, never fatally. During the war, Edward Thompson rebuilt them into A22s, Pacifics, thus taking away the 8-coupled adhesion, and they were never the same again. It's interesting that the A1 Trust is building an original P2, but as far as I know, no group is contemplating building a rebuilt A22.
As far as I know as well. I mean, perhaps there's somebody who's got a dream there to build one day, but
there might be. I don't know.
Yeah. So fantastic machines, interesting lives, very small class.
Yes, 6.
It's only 6 constructed. The new build is slightly different to the originals in that it is to be 2 inches lower on the boiler, so slightly different outline, and it is to share the same boiler design as the A1 Tornado.
Yes, that makes sense.
There is going to be a little coupling plate before the smoke box, just to sort of make up the extra space.
Right.
But it's been completely redesigned, so they've gone back to the drawing board. There were problems of sorts with the originals in that the intake steam and the outtake steam, there was a lot of heat transfer. So obviously when you get heat transfer in the cylinders, you get less oomph for the amount of steam going through the machine. So I visited the A1 Steam Locomotive Trust, who are building new build Prince of Wales number 2007 at Darlington. They've now moved into new premises, all new build, very, very impressive workshops, and I was given this. So here we have a general arrangement view of not number 2007, but obviously of the original class. And well, for the rivet counter, or just for something to admire on a wall, the amount of work that went into producing that, and this would have been one of many hundreds of plans you can imagine for the locomotive. So for the avid enthusiast, I think it's a nice little bit of artwork for a wall.
It's fantastic, yeah.
Anyway, back to the reason why we are here. We'll just drop that to the floor. Hornby's new models. So in 2017, I believe it was, might even have been earlier, we reviewed Hornby's now railroad version of this locomotive, and it's had in excess of 1 million views on YouTube. Can you believe that? And here's the latest version. So from an initial reaction, Tony, what do you think of these?
At first glance, and looking closely, although these will owe something to the original Hornby P2, it's not a lot. These are substantially better models. For instance, wire handrails. The other was Design Clever.
That was the design, I remember that era.
Yeah. They appear to me to capture exactly the presence of these enormous machines. There's no more powerful steam locomotive, express passenger steam locomotive, ever been built in this country. They are, well, fantastic models. One thing I notice, and this isn't always captured, is the egg shape of
very distinctive, isn't it?
It is, yes. I think these, it's a personal thing, look better, and they certainly were better in terms of smoke lifting, and it's significant. And this one, well, Cock of the North and Earl Marshall eventually were rebuilt to this pattern. The first two had an A3 non-corridor style tender with beading, and I think Hornby have done that. Although this is significantly different to the original because it's built up at the rear, very similar to Tornado's tender. The final 4 had the streamlined non-corridor tender. And it's interesting to note that in their original form, at any one time, no 2 were the same out of the 6.
Right.
And that was perpetuated in the A22s, because no 2 of those were exactly the same. So well done to Hornby to capture these. The livery application is fantastic, isn't it?
We've got 2 sent kindly for review from the manufacturer. So shall we put the haulage capacity to the test?
Could be the back-to-backs that are out. Looks spectacular, doesn't it?
It does, just like the original.
It could be the pony that the back-to-back's a bit tight.
It's like whack-a-mole. Well, I saw it was derailing on the fiddle yard side just before it came round.
Off the road now. It's off the road. Yeah, it's a pony.
Ouch. So one of the problems we've got is this pony appears to be straying off the track, so we're just going to investigate. There's not much to go wrong really. First thing we're going to check, just keep that little screw safe, is the back-to-back, and the gauge says it's alright. It's not actually, might have just pulled it out a tiny bit there. That appears fine. Next thing is the springing, and that is achieved with these small little phosphor bronze springs to the underside. I'm just going to increase it a little bit, see if that makes any difference, and pop the little screw back in, and drop it on the floor, which is obligatory. I tell you what, I was lucky there, wasn't I? I think the key to when you drop something on the floor is to look at where it actually drops, because if you don't, you're quite literally screwed.
I think what should be pointed out, this isn't set track. This is Pico Streamline in the fiddle yard where it's derailing.
Yeah.
Mainly large radius curves.
Yeah. You can see the articulation of the pony there. We've got a little bit of twist motion. So it can move that way. There's nothing fouling on it. So let's just whack it on the track and see what happens. Okay, well, we've run them around the circuit a few times. We had a few little problems with Prince of Wales and that pony, but that's all been resolved now with that springing on the front of the model. I presume the reason for that might be because it's not sprung laterally, so effectively it's just cosmetic, isn't it? Really?
Yes.
It's the front driver of the locomotive. There's not a great deal of springing between the axles to compensate for slight track imperfections, and in fairness, both models run beautifully now through all of the track. There's a mixture of fine scale track, hand built. Is it SMP?
SMP, well, it's C&L point work and SMP plain track, the work of Norman Solomon.
And on the Fiddleyard
standard PK. Well, I say standard, it's code 100, but the finer code 100.
Right, and what radius were the points that we were
running? Well, the large radius.
Large radius points. So we had them flying through at sort of warp speed. Now, how would you say, as a fair comparison, in terms of haulage, these were compared to the previous railroad locomotive?
Not quite as good.
Ah, okay. Right.
I mean,
is that many years ago? I can't remember, but...
Well, as I say, I think, what did I put? 20-odd carriages? We haven't done that with these, but this one slipped a bit. But, I mean, these are... most people are going to run loads shorter than these.
I mean, these are long rakes, lengthy rakes. There's no inclines on this layout at all,
no.
We must add, but by the time you've got a long, lengthy rake going around a curve, it adds quite a bit to it, and they are heavy trains nonetheless.
One could argue that this, in an ironic way, is prototypical, because the real thing is the pony didn't impart enough guidance into the curves, causing wear on the centre drivers. Well, this is not guiding this quite well. It is now, so well done for fixing it. I think they're exceptional models, Howard. I really do. I mean, I've built examples of Cock of the North, and I've built examples of this, and none of them is as good as these.
So if you'd like to know more about these models and a little bit of insight from Tony, take a look at the November 2023 issue of BRM. And in the meantime, if you'd like to know more about the new build Prince of Wales locomotive, check out the A1 Steam Locomotive Trust's website. And we've also included a link in the video description below to take a look at the original review of Hornby's Cock of the North, wasn't it?
It was,
in 2013. So if you'd like to compare it with how these fare now, take a look at that video too. In the meantime, I'll leave you to take some pictures.
I will, and thank you. Lovely. They're really lovely.
The November 2023 episode of...
Issue. It's not an episode.
I sort of realised that.
That sounds like a spy thriller. They're very good.
Enthusiasm for railways large and small? What a wonderful hobby this is. Why not do something about it? But where to start? How do you get to the heart of the hobby, get closer to the action at exhibitions, discover better ways of making things, new products, and go behind the scenes at some of the UK's biggest railway attractions? Simple, a membership that delivers all this and more. Get every new issue of BRM, Traction, Engineering in Miniature, Narrow Gauge World and Garden Rail magazines before they arrive in shops. That's 5 magazines, and that's just the start. Access more than 800 back issues with the ability to search for articles. A growing archive of track plans for project inspiration. Exclusive behind-the-scenes videos. Win big with our monthly competitions. And gold membership to the online forum RM Web. Plus you get a free show ticket to one of our great weekends out. The Festival of British Railway Modelling, the London Festival of Railway Modelling, and Bristol Model Railway Exhibition. We think our digital subscription is the best, but don't take our word for it. Activate your no obligation free trial today and try for yourself. Simply give it a go and decide after you've sampled all the benefits. The ultimate digital subscription for the railway enthusiast, getting you to the heart of the hobby.